Views and opinions expressed in this program are not meant to alarm anyone, but merely start an intelligent discussion about an interesting phenomenon, the possibility that an intelligent alien life form does exist and is actively making contact with the Earth.
Good evening and welcome to UFO Update Live. I'm Terry Endres. Tonight we're going to update some local and national stories and hopefully give some insight into what's going on in the UFO field. With me tonight I have Chris Coffey, independent UFO researcher and a longtime associate of Len Stringfield. And to my right we have Pat Packard, president of the Associates for Scientific Knowledge and an active investigator as well. Let's open up a little bit with one of the more intriguing developments lately. There's this alleged autopsy film someone has found in regards to Roswell, and Pat, I know you've been doing a little work on that. Can you give us some detail?
Well, I tracked it down. It's in England right now, and a group that's pretty highly respected by the name of Bufora, that's the English UFO group, has been able to view parts of it. In fact, they just held a viewing of it, I think it was last Friday night, and I talked to them on Saturday. And evidently, it's past first muster. It's actually showing the alien being autopsied, the organs coming out, the skull being opened up. There's no obvious hoax to it. They can't find anything that's wrong so far with the military uniforms or the medical surroundings, but they're not historians. Hopefully this week there'll be a second showing, and it's going to include more footage, which is, part of that footage is going to supposedly be Truman walking through the Roswell debris field. But they're going to have a couple historians there by agreement with a fellow named Santilli, who owns rights to the film, and we'll know more after that happens. But like I say, so far it's pretty intriguing, but these things, generally turn out to be hoaxes, as we all know. So,
wasn't there some initial skepticism, though, about this kind of curious discovery of this film?
Well, it's more than curious. The guy came to the United States, this English producer Santilli. He's actually here in Cleveland. He encountered a fella that had Elvis footage. He was doing an Elvis retrospective, whatever.
Right.
So he talked to the fellow, and the fellow had called him back after he'd bought his Elvis footage. And he said, "Come back, I got something you may be interested in." And he showed him this footage. He told him the story that he'd been a photographer in the military in '47, and that he was the one that photographed all this. And he was so traumatized by it or whatever that he made a copy of the film. So, like I say, at this point, there's a lot more film to go, and no real experts. Kodak has agreed to look at the film. Santilli won't let it out of his sight, which I don't blame him. He says he'll go and stand there while they analyze it. There are some film numbers off the canisters. They're trying to check that through Kodak now. But we'll just have to see how it develops. But it is a fascinating story, and Santilli has not a great reputation. But he seems to be cooperating with everyone, and he even says, "I'm not the guy to have this film.
Right.
Someone else should have found it, but I found it, and that's just the way it goes." So we'll have to see what happens.
Isn't there about 15 rolls of film, and some rolls of film are not even developed?
Right. Well, he's transferring them all to video, and that supposedly was taking so long, and people are making bids on it, sight unseen, which, like I say, I think our experience has been it's probably a hoax, but the people that I talked to there are pretty knowledgeable, and they're still taking a wait-and-see attitude, but they say it looks interesting, and I think get some historians there, they can find out for sure.
I read where the alien was like turned to the side, his head was turned to the side, and I think they can figure out he's 6 foot tall based on the...
Well, some of those calculations have been readjusted because his feet supposedly are stretched out and what have you. So. But there's a number of doctors, and the first small bit of film he released is a tantalizing, what do you want to call it, appetizer, that this alien's in 2 or 3 minutes of it, and they can see the faces of doctors and other people milling around. The latest film, they're all suited up in protective gear and what have you. So.
But the camera's mounted, isn't it? A still shot that it doesn't really pan,
right.
You know, where the doctors go in and out.
Well, so we were told. Now, I don't know how all the 17 reels are going to come out. So it's an interesting story, and of course we get a lot of these all the time, but it has gone through some scrutiny, at least a little bit, and seems to still be intriguing at this point.
Yeah. Well, another story that's even at times made national headlines is all the stuff that's going on at Area 51. It's interesting because Area 51 is a top secret facility for research and development for, I guess, what we would call black projects, those military projects that no one's supposed to know about. And as the rumor goes, I think they're supposed to have some captured flying saucers that they're reverse engineering so that we can take advantage of whatever technology. And a lot of the information we've gotten about Area 51 has come from a fellow named Bob Lazar, who claims to have worked at Area 51 and worked on some of these spacecraft. I guess this would be a good time to take a look at a bit of video of Bob Lazar explaining some of the details of his role at Area 51.
Between December of '88 and April of '89, I worked as a senior staff physicist in what has to be the most secret project in history. My place of work was a facility at an area known as S4 on the Nellis Air Force Range in central Nevada. Area S4 is located approximately 15 miles south of the infamous Area 51 installation at Groom Lake, where the U-2 and SR-71 spy planes were developed. For the duration of my employment at S4, I was paid by the United States Navy. I had at least partial views of the 9 different discs out at Area S4, but the one I'm going to describe to you now is the one in which I not only saw 2 of the 3 interior levels, but I also saw it fully functional in flight. This particular disc appeared to be in excellent condition, and because of its sleek appearance, I nicknamed it the Sport Model. The Sport Model is about 16 feet tall and 40 feet in diameter. The exterior skin of the disc is metal, which is the color of unpolished stainless steel. The Sport Model sits on its belly when it's not energized. The power source is a reactor which uses element 115 as a fuel and uses a total annihilation reaction to provide the heat which it converts to energy, making it a compact, lightweight, efficient onboard power source. As you can see, the hatch is located on the upper half of the disc with just the bottom portion of the door wrapping around the center lip of the disc. The interior level of the disc is divided into 3 levels. The lower level is where the 3 gravity amplifiers and amplifier guides are located. The reactor is located directly above the 3 gravity amplifiers on the center level and is in fact centered between them. The reactor is similar to this half-scale model. The element 115 is machined into triangles like this and is then inserted into the reactor. The center level of this disc also houses the control consoles and seats, both of which were too small and too low to the floor to be functional for adult human beings. My job in this program was to be part of a back engineering team. Back engineering is the act of taking a finished product and tearing it apart to find out what makes it tick. The goal in this program was to see if the technology of the disc could be duplicated with Earth materials. As part of my indoctrination into the program at S4, I would randomly be taken into a small room which contained a table, a chair, and 120 or so briefings in blue folders. I'd be left there to read for varying amounts of time, usually about half an hour. These briefings contained a wide spectrum of information, mostly relating to aliens and alien technology. These reports appeared to be an overview of alien information which can be used to brief scientists from any field about the scope of the whole project, and not just their specific field of endeavor. In May of 1987, some scientists took an antimatter reactor to an underground blast facility on the Nevada test site to perform an experiment. Unfortunately for them, their experiment required them to cut the reactor open, which resulted in their deaths. This explosion was explained to others at the test site as a previously unannounced low-yield underground nuke test. I was hired in December of 1988 to replace one of these men. The S4 installation is built into the mountain, and the 9 hangar doors are angled at about 60 degrees. These doors are covered with a sand-textured coating to blend in with the side of the mountain and the desert floor. The hangar that housed the sport model was like a typical airplane hangar with the exception of the angled doors that I mentioned before. The hangar was equipped with typical tools and extensive electronic equipment. It also had a machine with an X-ray emblem on it and an overhead crane rated at 20,000 pounds. Equipment in this hangar was marked with a black number 41 with a white circle around it.
Okay. Sounds like a pretty amazing story. Just to clarify detail, S4 is simply that segment of Area 51 that's, I think, devoted to these specific projects, so that there's no confusion between the two things. Pat, I know that this is quite a remarkable story, and you've been sort of checking up on the background of Bob Lazar to see if any of this has much merit.
Well, there's a lot of problems with Bob Lazar. Number one, he supposedly graduated from Tresper Clark High School in New York. The problem being, he claims to have gone on to MIT from there, but he graduated in the lower third of his class. Generally, you've got to be in the top 10% to be even considered at MIT.
Right.
MIT has no record of Bob Lazar. Now, a lot of people say, well, they erased his records and they did it, but he's not even in a science photo or a science club or crossing the campus or anything. I mean, no one has a recollection. He's never given us names of professors or whatever. He also claims to have attended Cal Northridge, and there's no recollection of him there at all. And the only teacher he ever gave us, he teaches at a different university. So he's also had kind of a questionable past in terms of he was involved with a house of ill repute. Of course, that's not unusual in Nevada, but he got charged with some crime there for that. He's just had an up and down and a very shaky past. Now, he did produce a W-2 form that showed he worked for the Navy. He was in a phone book. Those things, he could have been a contract person.
Right.
There are people, for instance, John Lear, who's the highest rated pilot in the FAA, that went out with Lazar on a specific night, and this happened 2 consecutive nights, and several people went, and they did see craft doing amazing things. And I talked to John Lear on the phone. He said he's seen everything that's in the air, and there's just no way that this was anything that we ever made. Also, George Knapp, who's the fellow that's a news reporter from KLAS-TV out there, has told me that they have a number of people that back Lazar's story. They won't speak publicly.
Right.
But in fact, they did work there. Now the question is, how would the government erase? I mean, erasing school records is one thing, but you'd have to take microfilm and all kinds of things and redo them without leaving a trace. And I can't see how that's done, so I have to think there's something wrong with Bob Lazar. Now, he may have picked the story up from the other people. I really don't know.
Now, let's clarify a point here. Now, what's the difference between having a contract and actually officially working for the Navy?
Well, I mean, it's just like any business. They contract out to certain jobs. It would be more efficient for your little company to do if it was electronics, or they didn't have the facilities. The government contracts all kinds of jobs, from construction to, you name it.
Well, then that means that it simply puts him at the location, but not necessarily doing what he says.
Not in the Department of the Navy, which is what he said he worked for. But his story, like I say, they've come up with 14 other scientists, supposedly, that work out there that back some part of his story. So, it's just a very tough call right now. I don't think Lazar, it doesn't seem to me like he could be for real. Where are his records? I can understand they could erase some of them, But to the degree that he's been wiped off the face of the earth, I just can't buy it.
Chris, in working with Len, did he ever mention anything about Bob Lazar?
Well, he talked to him, with John Lear. He knew John Lear first, and he heard the story, which is interesting. I think Dr. Teller supposedly met Lazar at one of these car shows because he's into fixing up cars. And I think Teller supposedly made a phone call to get his job at this S4.
That's interesting.
Teller being of the A-bomb.
Right,
fame, so.
Edward Teller. Okay, boy, lots there. And if any of this pans out, it's quite a remarkable story.
Yeah, it'd be a fantastic story and an earth-shaking one, but the facts are just not a...
Right. Well, I guess problematic is that it's secondhand information in many respects. We can't follow a straight line back to it, and we can't really recover any kind of official documents other than this W-2 form, which really doesn't, it doesn't take the place of actually having documents.
Faked that.
Right.
Yeah.
And that gets us to the Freedom of Information Act, which is actually one of the tools that we do have to us in absence of any kind of hard evidence. We do have an avenue through the Freedom of Information Act to get documents from the government. Doesn't mean that we'll get what we're asking for, because it's still up to them to declassify the information. But it does give us, some interesting developments every once in a while. 'Cause I think a lot of papers sometimes get released by accident.
On April 14th, 1995, an event took place in the Mariemont area that was reported to the police. The audio recording of the call that you are about to hear was obtained from the Hamilton County Sheriff's Department Dispatch and Communications Center. The identity of the caller has been withheld for privacy purposes.
Police Dispatcher Skinner. Yes, I was on my way down Plainville to Mariemont. And, let's see, God, I can't think of the name of the street it is now. I know it's Plainville, but I've seen something I know I shouldn't have seen. Okay. It's right off of Plainville, because I'm trying to get a hold of military base. I know it sounds stupid and ridiculous, but I know we ain't got no aircrafts that are square. But it's down Plainville somewhere. I don't know. I've circled it about 4 or 5. Cambridge. I went around 4 or 5 times. I don't know if some little kid with some little helicopter toy or something. But it's not right, because I've been trying to get a hold of a military base all night tonight. How long ago was it that you saw it? About 20 minutes ago. So I don't know if it's just a bunch of people out there goofing off with something square. But I know we ain't got no aircrafts that are, so I'm 22 years old, by the way. I know we ain't got no aircrafts that are square with green and orange lights. It sounds stupid and ridiculous, but... Where was it sitting at? Right on the side of the road, or? Well, she's going 5 lights up in the air. All of a sudden, I looked up and saw it. And stopped, started dropping straight down. Okay. So I don't know if it's somebody, like I said, somebody playing a practical joke or something. Yeah. About how big was it, do you think? How big was it? Yeah. About the size of a Toyota Corolla.
One interesting aspect of this case, which tends to lend credibility to it, is the fact that the witnesses took the time to report what they allegedly saw to the police. Most hoaxers wouldn't do that.
Associates for Scientific Knowledge investigator Charles Stewart began investigations into the case immediately upon receiving the information, and an attempt was made to obtain more documentation of the alleged event.
Through a thorough investigation, we were able to track down the witnesses, and they took us to the site.
The witnesses, both of them seem real credible to me. Everything they had told us from beginning to end, there was no inconsistencies in anything they told us. I'd say they're very credible witnesses, and as a matter of fact, neither one of them wanted any publicity for what they had seen.
The caller was willing to give investigators a detailed account of the declared occurrence, and contended that the UFO first appeared about 3 stories in the air before suddenly dropping to an elevation nearly 10 feet from the ground.
According to the witnesses, the object which they saw was hovering at treetop level and illuminating the roof of a house and a tree.
Well, we were thinking that if this thing was really as close to the house as it was reported, that someone in the house may have heard something or saw a flash of light or maybe an a neighbor had come up and asked him some questions about something the night before, so we thought we'd ask around a little bit in the neighborhood, and we got some interesting responses.
Investigators spoke with a resident from nearby Madisonville, residing just blocks away from the sighting, who claims to have observed something suspended low over railroad tracks in the neighborhood.
First I thought it was like a boxcar, the end of a train. It's hard to say because when you're not expecting anything that late at night, it's hard to say. It's hard to say if it was pulsating or if it was just by being dark and the lights were just blinking. I don't know. And it was sitting over 2 tracks that was right down there about 50, 75 yards down. It was triangular, like.
In an effort to locate more witnesses in the specific area of the sightings, investigators attempted to make inquiries with residents in 4 houses near the immediate vicinity of the event.
So we're heading back to the car, and this guy comes booming out of nowhere, skids to a stop, and starts hassling us, asking us who we are, what we're doing. Starts asking us for our ID, what are we doing, what are we doing in the area. And this guy didn't identify himself. He wasn't driving a police car, wasn't wearing a uniform. We showed him who we were, what we were doing in the area, and he was real suspicious of us, and he seemed like he was going to give us a hard time until we had shown him our report forms. So finally, he got a big smile on his face like it was a big joke, and he finally drove away.
Just a few days after the heart-stopping confrontation with the mysterious stranger, the investigators returning to the scene spotted the inexplicable gentleman once again in the region, this time patronizing a local restaurant.
Okay, there he is. There he is right over there.
His car was positively identified and observed in the parking lot, and the gentleman was apparently indoors consuming food at the time. The occasion to procure further information as to the identity of the anonymous person did not present itself, as the nameless individual disappeared from the restaurant before investigators had a chance to greet him.
Maybe he's just a concerned citizen, and he was doing the community a favor, and that's pretty much how he acted. I don't think he meant to intimidate us in any way. But, maybe it's a good idea that they're keeping an eye on their neighborhood.
Investigations into the region are ongoing, and further inquiries are being made into claims by another Madisonville resident who lives just blocks away, someone who claims to have possibly been abducted or who has allegedly had an abduction experience. The mounting eyewitness testimony from concerned citizens would clearly mean that some phenomena has led various area residents to believe that anxiety and distress over these matters are justifiable, and that serious investigations into these allegations are warranted.
Okay, a lot going on, and these things are being investigated by us. And Pat, I think you'd like to tell people something about calling in reports.
Sure, we've got a number of reports that didn't make it on the little tape we did there, but serious reports we're glad to entertain, and people that have some common sense that call. Mm-hmm. But we have a number of things going on right now, and a number of different investigations we've done throughout the year. Everything from the black helicopters and the militia to right on through. So we're into a little bit of everything. If you have anything you want to report, be happy to take that report. My number is 860-4250. All
right. And again, we'll take your report seriously. If we can actively investigate it, we'll do that. We'll get somebody out there, and we'll try to track down whatever it is. I believe we have a caller again. Mike, are you there?
Yeah.
Hello, Mike. What's your question?
I want to know why about the UFO was found in Cincinnati. I was wondering why you have little green men stuck up your butt.
Well, that's an interesting question, but we don't have time to answer that right now. Thanks for calling, though. Okay, we would really appreciate it if someone of a serious mind would give us a call, because we would like to talk to you about UFOs and answer any serious questions that you might have. Well, let's move on to some other things again. We're certainly having an interesting session here with some of our callers. Now,
Class tells, doesn't it?
Yeah. Class does show. Chris, you mentioned during one of the tape segments to me another piece of evidence that we needed to take caution with.
Well, you were talking about some packages that you have to be careful about because sometimes it may tend to discredit you, but it's like the Guardian case.
Right.
That they think different researchers, Len Stringfield for one, and I think the guy in Canada, I can't remember his name, he's the one that ended up getting these tapes.
Exler.
It's like a Exler.
Yeah, Exler.
With a fingerprint on it, and some people took it serious, but Len, I thought it was a hoax.
And I think, Pat, is there kind of some information? Now, to refresh our audience's mind, the Guardian case is supposed to be some videotape of a saucer in somebody's field that might have crash landed or something like that, and it was an interesting piece. I think even Unsolved Mysteries did a segment on it, but it got stranger and stranger. Again, it was an anonymous package, no way to trace it except that the guy had put a fingerprint, a thumbprint in ink on the label to the tape. But beyond that, has there been any other disclosures about that case?
Well, there's been a number of disclosures. I mean, it's essentially a hoax, and we're pretty confident of that. People that have looked into it, the documentation that came with it was obviously a hoax. The movie itself, as far as I know, they've been able to explain it, and I don't remember how that was resolved, but someone did look at it and
like
break it down. And it might have been a helicopter or a truck or something like that with a beacon on it. So it's all been put to rest, but Bob Exler has dropped out of the UFO research, and we thank him for that. Because he's
well, he was supporting that Guardian thing for some time.
Supporting it, trying to make money on it. There's a lot of people like that. So what can you say?
Well, let's bring out a little laundry list. There are some other points we want to address. I think Donald Schmidt, who was the co-author and co-investigator with Kevin Randall into the Roswell case, some interesting things have happened with him. Could you fill us in a little bit on that?
Well, unfortunately, Don has ruined his credibility. Don Schmidt and Kevin wrote a couple of books about Roswell. They've done an excellent job, but Don has claimed to have a degree, master's degree, which he doesn't have, claimed to have been an informant, a paid informant, working for the DEA, not true. Claims to have worked for that to be his only job and denied working at the post office, and in fact he does work at the post office. The only good side of that is that all the interviews were on tape save two, and one was with the nuns, unfortunately, which is not that important, but all the interviews with Edwin Easley and other high-ranking officers that told about the crash and told about, seeing the bodies and the craft and what have you were either taped or Randall was there.
Right.
So in a sense, it hasn't done much damage other than the image, of course, to Kevin Randall, but it's unfortunate, really.
Okay. I think we have a caller again. Rebecca, are you there?
Yes, I have a question. This is the first time I've ever seen a show about UFOs locally. My question is, I think I heard you comment on someone who had said that the UFOs that they had discovered weren't anything that had been maybe created by any known military source. Is there a possibility that someone here, a terrestrial being, could have created this kind of technology, or is it something, in your opinion, that is totally foreign?
Pat?
Well, I don't see how. One of the problems, Rebecca, is that some of the technologies that we know about today, we still can't duplicate the speeds, that these things achieve, 7,300 miles an hour at low altitude, which was tracked on radar and timed in Washington, D.C. in the early 50s. The fact that just recently they dropped from 10,000 feet to 500 feet in a matter of a couple of seconds. That would have pulled 44 Gs, which would have flattened a man. It's pretty hard to believe that through the last almost 50 years, we've had that kind of technology. If that was the case, why didn't we use it in Vietnam? Why didn't we use it in the Gulf War? That type of thing. I don't know how we could. It's a possibility, but it just doesn't ring true to me, you know. I can't see it, really.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks for your call. Now, let's see. Let's move on. We talked about some of the documents that have been bogus. Let's see. Dr. Brown.
Well, there's two things.
Yeah.
Dr. Brown is a graduate of MIT. There's two interesting stories here recently.
Right.
One is that Dr. Walker, who was head of Penn State, had involvement in notes and et cetera, was involved with UFOs. He was head of Penn State for 16 years, president of Penn State. He just passed away. And he said that basically he'd had involvement with the bodies and the whole 9 yards. And Dr. Brown is an MIT graduate who just came out in print saying that he had analyzed materials that were welded on a subatomic basis, I guess you would say, and that we're just learning through string theory that these things are even possible. But when he examined them, it was some 20-odd years ago.
Yeah.
And he is at a loss to explain, other than the fact that they're extraterrestrial. He says, there's no way we could have done it. So I don't know how it was done or why it was done, but again, more people have come out and made statements, and of course the press has gone right by it. Now the Walker story was big news when it first came out in wherever Penn State is. I can't think of the name of the town right now. But in any case, it was big news there, but it didn't make a ripple anywhere else.
Right. Okay. Well, I think we have another caller. Ralph, are you there? Hello, Ralph.
Hello, Terry. Are you there?
Pretty good. Yeah, I'm here. What's your question?
First of all, I want to thank you guys for doing an excellent show and everything, and I want to apologize for some previous callers and everything. Now, all of us are ignorant in that fact, but my question is, say granted that the existence of UFOs is proven beyond it, that, or, you know, is suspected strongly or anything, are we dealing just like mainly one alien race, or do they got idea like we're dealing with like five? I mean, like is there like Japanese, Chinese, Koreans, alien races, or I mean, is there, you know, like is it a federation? Is there Klingons? I mean, is there any idea if there's more than one, or how many's you're dealing with? I mean. Yeah,
true. That's quite a debate, I think, among researchers anyway. There does seem to be some differences between some of the entities that are seen. Whether those are racial differences can't be determined because, well, until we know.
Is there species difference determination? Have we determined that there's more than one alien extraterrestrial that's seeing us?
Yeah, well, it's hard to say. Again, all we have are observations, you know, and unless, you know, we get some verification that these Roswell autopsy films were in fact authentic, then we know that somebody's been dissecting and analyzing entities, ETs. Right now, all we can do is observe and make some speculations. If we see that there's a difference in appearance between one alien and another, we can maybe think that it's two different races or maybe from two different planets, but there's no way to prove that.
Speculation at this point.
Right. I mean, there's just not enough information.
What is the speculation?
What's the current speculation? Is there?
Well, speculation, there's a whole range of it.
Most people, I mean, they've listed as, most people accept that there's probably 9 different races, but it can go up higher than that, I've seen.
11.
I have no idea.
Right, so it could be a large federation then, huh?
It's possible, but it's not impossible that they could all be coming from one source. in the same sense that...
I mean, if they're able to travel here, they should be able to communicate amongst themselves, even though,
Sure.
you know, if they're above us, they're equal, though. I mean...
Yeah. Yeah, it's just speculation. We can't really say anything definite.
And why are people so blasé about information on UFOs today? I mean,
that's an excellent question. Wish we knew. I don't know if they're maybe kind of primed by the general media. But,
well,
I mean,
I think there's been a lot of hoaxes.
Proven, there's going to be a lot of people waking up, and there's going to be some drastic, serious, different changes. Lifestyles we know ain't going to be here no more.
That's right. Yeah, and I think maybe that's
so why
the
are
answer
they
to
so
your question.
blasé? Are they scared of what would happen?
I think that's the answer to your question. Just try to ignore it. Maybe it'll go away. Listen, Ralph, thanks for the call. We appreciate it, and tune in again. Well, let's take one more thing. Let's discuss Hoagland and the moon. You know, Hoagland, who found, or at least was analyzing the face on Mars, has now come up with something on the moon.
Well, yeah, he has a bunch of slides. In fact, we went and filmed his presentation in Columbus some time ago. We got copies of these slides from NASA. We had them analyzed ourselves. Our analysis came back that there was nothing to them.
Right.
But a number of other people have looked at them and claim that there are structures on the moon, and then there's a whole raft of information revolving around that, including a Russian group that, with the Academy of Sciences, that says every time we send a moon probe, there is an increased activity of lights and all this other kind of stuff. So at this point, I have to say that I can't believe that there's a 10-mile spire on the moon that has been overlooked and kept secret. It seems like maybe someone with a high-powered telescope may be able to see that. You know, I mean, Palomar or someone. You know, I mean, you're an astronomer. What do you think?
I'm only an amateur astronomer. It all depends on the resolution you can get. Most amateur telescopes wouldn't really be able to pick up anything relatively small.
But how would you keep a lid on all the professionals? I just can't see that happening.
All right, I think we have another caller. Do we have another caller? Okay, caller, you there? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was wondering about what's the deal with, is it Hangar 18 up at Wright Pat?
Okay, there's a building 18. It's a deep freeze unit where they cold tested jet engines in the event that we might have had to use them up in the Bering Strait against Russia. It sounds like a good place to keep something if you want to preserve it, but there's really no evidence that alien bodies were kept there. So it's a building 18. It's not really a hangar.
There is evidence that alien bodies were kept. I mean, there's anecdotal evidence that alien bodies were kept at Wright-Patterson from General Exxon and quite a number of other people, many of whom are anonymous, many of whom Lynn Stringfield talked to, a couple of whom we've had on the show previously. I don't really know if, in fact, there were alien bodies there, but we do have anecdotal evidence to that effect.
Okay, well, but as the way things are running right now, everything's coming out of pocket. It's really difficult to keep this going. If anybody out there has any ideas on how we can keep the show rolling at a more consistent pace, please give us a call. Thanks very much for watching, and we hope to see you again.